What's going on, y'all? Hopefully everybody's doing well. Hopefully everybody having a great day. It's Sunday morning. We had somewhat of a blizzard yesterday. I ain't even gonna say a blizzard, to be honest. I'm blowing it a little bit out of proportion. It was a big snowstorm. All right. Major had a wrestling tournament. He went he won two, lost three. A little disappointed. He was me. I'm always proud as long as he competes. Somebody, while we were at the tournament, that knows me and has known me for a long time, has known me prior to making certain changes in my life, and knows me now, came up to me and he sees me recording Major's match. And he tells me, Frank, I just want to say, this whole being a dad, you love this thing, don't you? And I said, absolutely. To me, there's nothing more important, nothing as gratifying as being a good and present father. And Major, after he took his loss, he won his first two matches. The next match, he took his first loss. He was upset, right? And I had to speak to him, and I just told him, look, we don't win everything. I said I would much rather have you lose a close match than to win a match and beat somebody that you are just overall better than. I don't want no easy routes for you, as I don't want for myself. And as I begin to spend the day with him, right, and it was Major wrestling, and me and my other son, Frankie, are there, and we're cheering him on, and we're talking to him, and we're getting him hyped up. It made me think about my own childhood. I never had anybody come to any of my sporting events. If I had a game, not a single time did I have anybody there to cheer me on. Not a single wrestling match, not a single basketball game, nothing. And I missed that. It bothered me at the time. It bothered me when I got older. And now I've learned to just put that energy that I didn't have into my son. There will be times where I sort of reflect on where I'm at in life. And I do this on a regular basis. I take evaluation of my life. I set goals. I check off goals that I've completed. If there's a goal that I completed, but I wish I could have done it a little better or a little more efficient, I'll go back and revisit. I'm constantly, that's just the type of person I am. I'm very goal driven. So I look at Major and I look at Mercy and I look at Frankie, and I look at all of my children. They're going to be what I was if I was truly loved and had two parents both present. You know what I mean? I say to them, okay, if I turned out I'm 43 years old. Here as I sit today making this video, I consider myself a pretty decent person, right? Nowhere near perfect, very much so a work in progress. But I say my children, they will be what I would have been if I felt loved, if I felt supported, if I felt cared and safe and secure in every aspect of my life. I don't mean just physically. I mean, if I felt secure with who I was at every step along the way, at 10 years old, at 12 years old, at 13 years old, that's who my kids will be. So I say, if here I am 43 and I turned out to be a decent person, my kids are going to be great people because they're going to be loved. Hope that they feel secure every step along the way, right? And I look at my daughters, the twins. They'll be graduating this year. They'll be going off to college. Never once had to tell them, did you do your homework? Did you study on a test? They made it very easy for me and Rachel to look like very good parents. And not saying that we didn't struggle behind the scenes, because we had to deal with attitudes and everything else. And just the normal teenage stuff, the house stuff. That's it. Little back talk, little rolling of the eyes. That's it. I know that that's not going to be the case with every single one of my children, though. But one thing I know I will do is my children will not falter or lack in love, in support, in guidance, in being present. That will not happen. So the reason that I chose this topic for the video today is that today is my father's birthday. He doesn't know yet. When I go take Frankie to drop him off to his mother, me and Major will most likely go and spend the rest of the day with my father. Major has never met my father. Major has never spoken to my father. I'm nervous. Major doesn't know yet. My father doesn't know yet. And I was going to take both Frankie and Major, but time-wise and from where I have to take Frankie to go back to his mom to where my father lives, it just wouldn't have worked out time-wise. So I'll start with Major. Major's very sensitive. When I spoke to him, when I found out that my father is essentially dying of cancer, I spoke to Major and I told him. And he started crying, even though he has never met this man. They could pass each other in a store and neither one of them would know what each other, they wouldn't know what the other looked like. They wouldn't know I just walked past my grandfather. I just walked past my grandson, right? But Major still cried at the thought of that being my grandfather. Major is a very sensitive, very in tune child, little boy. As those of you know that have seen him on video and, got to interact with him, that he's a very self-aware and loving young man. And I wonder even what he's going to call him, right? So when mother, father, grandfather, grandmother, those titles, those are titles. Those aren't names. Those are titles, and those are titles that have to be earned, in my opinion. Just because somebody gave birth to me doesn't essentially make them a father or make them a mother. The same as with a grandfather. So I know when we get in that car and I tell Major, all right, we're going to see my father, I know he's going to ask me, well, what should I call him, Dad? He seen me texting him yesterday. And he said, is that your dad? And, because he seen Dad in the text. And I said, yes. And he got happy, I seen in him. And it wasn't happy for him. He was happy for me. That's what type of kid we're dealing with. That's what type of little boy that we're dealing with. 9-year-old little boy. So I know he's going to ask me, what should I call him? I don't know what to say to him. One of the reasons that Major and my father has never met is because I didn't want to bring anything into any of my children's life that isn't going to be consistent, right? I didn't want Major to meet him or any of my other children to meet him and to get in love with the idea of having a grandfather. Because Rachel's father is also not present in my children's life by his own choice. He was at one time, now he isn't. So I don't want them to get or fall in love with the idea of having a grandfather and it not being there on a constant basis. I refuse to do that to anybody, let alone my children. So my father went to an appointment yesterday, and it was with all of his doctors. They basically, on Friday, he went to the appointment, and they basically want him to begin hospice. Hospice is essentially end of life care. So it's essentially, I'm wondering, am I introducing my children, or will be introducing my children, to a man who might not be around that much longer? Excuse me, I gotta get this shot of coffee. So I made this cup this morning. It's okay. It's nothing like Rachel. Rachel literally makes the best coffee. That's why I'm married to her. Don't tell her that, though. So I wonder, am I taking Major to meet somebody who might not be around that much longer? And I asked Major. I feel as though he's old enough to ask his opinion. And just because he says yes doesn't mean it's going to be yes. I will take his opinion into consideration. Because if it was no, it would be no. But if it's yes, I will take that in consideration. And I asked Major. And of course, I knew he was going to say, yes, I want to meet him. I guess troubling as this whole dilemma or situation is, it makes me that much stronger in knowing that my child will never have to go through this. My child will never, none of my children will ever have to go through the dilemma of, should I introduce my children to my father? Just won't happen. I refuse to allow that. As I've said numerous times here on the channel, and this is something that I live by, when I got old enough to truly decide what I wanted to do with my life and what I wanted to be, I sat down and decided I want to be a great father. I feel as though if I'm a good father, not a good father, a great father. If I'm a great father, I will be a good husband. I will be a good provider, a protector. I will lead by example. I will move and make decisions with my children in mind, with their future in mind. So instead of being good at 10 different things, I said, just let me focus on being a good father. And instead of being good at those 10 different things, right, being a good husband and a good father and a good provider and a good protector, just let me be a great father, and all those things will fall in line. And it's worked for me. I don't know if it will continue to work, but as of now, it has worked for me. And I'm grateful for my relationship with my children. I'm nervous to take Major to meet my father. And not that anything inappropriate or anything like that will occur, just because I know how sensitive Major is. And you can look at my father and see that he's not doing the best health-wise. So those of you that don't know, my father is in a wheelchair. He's been in a wheelchair from getting shot in the neck. Another thing that I decided to do was I asked my father if I could interview him. There's so many questions that I have, and I don't have anybody to get the answers from. My mother's not alive. I don't even know what hospital I was born in. My father will provide me with those answers. And I asked him, I said, I would love to have it on video if you're all right with that. So when my children ask me a question, I can say, here you go. You can watch this and you can learn on your own. You can hear it right from the horse's mouth. And he agreed. So next week, we will sit down and do an interview. And he told me, he said, look, son, I'm an open book. You can ask me whatever you want to ask me, and I will tell you the truth. My father lived a very different life. He's alive to this day by the grace of God. And when I tell you this, I mean that. He's been shot numerous times, been stabbed numerous times, very bad car accident he's been involved in numerous times. There has been a lot of things. He's one of those people that you hear something horrible happen to and you're like, damn, again. That's the type of life he lived. So I look forward to the interview. I will be learning a lot, and I look forward to bringing you guys the interview if that's something you guys would be interested in. And I realize how important video and pictures are of our family members, of our loved ones, because I don't have that of my mother. I haven't heard my mother's voice since the day she died 20 years ago. I don't remember what her voice sounds like. I would love to have a video or have a recording of her voice just to play back, so my children can hear her voice, so my grandchildren can hear her voice and say, you know what? That's your grandmother's voice. I don't have that of my mother. I will have that of my father. I thank you guys. The response to these videos has been very good. I thank you guys. I'm sorry you have to see my ugly face in the videos, but some of you guys like my voice, so maybe that makes up for it, right? I will be heading to Kensington tomorrow to do some work, to take some warm winter clothing and blankets and gloves and hats and things like that. If you guys have made it to this point in the video, drop down in the comments and give me a question to ask my father. Remember to hit that like button. I want to see if we can get 1,000 likes on this video. Please and thank you. Remember to be kind, loving, and patient. I thank each and every one of you who watch these videos, who interact with my videos. I thank you. The podcast studio is almost done. It's built. It's painted. Maybe I'll show you guys a little behind the scenes view of that before we actually get in there and start building up stuff and putting the lights in and everything like that. Maybe I'll give you guys a little behind the scenes look of that this coming week, if that's something you guys would be interested in. I'm out of here. I'm about to go take Major to meet his grandfather. I thank you guys once again. Kind, loving, and patient. I love each and every one of you. Have a blessed day.